Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 454. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Joe Whelan, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, elder statesman of the podcast, the Duke of Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we are going to be talking Batman. We're going to be talking Wonder Woman. We're going to be talking The Flash. We're talking Unfollow. We're also talking New Romancer from Vertigo. We got a pull-packed episode. I do want to give a quick shout-out. My father passed away since we did our last recording. So I'd like to dedicate this episode to him. Honestly, we're all kind of in the same boat there. If it wasn't for our parents, we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to be fans of mediums like this. And so I'd like to dedicate this to him. My dad obviously was a big inspiration to me throughout my life, so especially as a positive force. So I just want to shout out and dedicate this to him. And I also want to say thank you. A lot of people reached out to me, a lot of friends of the show and things like that since my father passed away, with just kind words and thoughts, and I really want to say thank you. It meant a lot to me, the support and friendship throughout his battle, because I mentioned on the show a few times when he was going through his cancer battle, and had a lot of you reached out to me, and I really appreciate the support and kind words. So I just want to kind of globally say thank you to all of you. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
Well, of course, we got our wonderful bundles. They're continuing with the great Vertigo bundles, so you can get all of the new Vertigo bundles right together. It's 50% off, only $21.89 for all of the Vertigo bundles, plus the new DC miniseries bundle, another 50% off, only $11.93 for all of those titles. But a special bundle I do want to talk about, and it's the variant covers. These are the Neil Adams variant covers. They're pencils, they're penciled covers. They're actually laid out so it looks like the actual, the storyboard, and it's Neil Adams, some great Neil Adams artwork. And it was funny when as soon as I saw those things, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely getting these. I may be getting multiples of a couple of the really cool ones, because it's, multiple titles. It's 45% off, only $51.99 for 26 different titles. So those are some outstanding stuff. But it kind of keeping with the pencil type of theme, we've got some really neat unwrapped deluxe hardcover editions. We've got a Batman unwrapped by Andy Kubert, and we've got Blackest Night unwrapped deluxe hardcover edition. Both of these they're telling multiple stories from Neil Gaiman and various other creators on the Bat stories. And of course, we've got the Blackest Night stories. But the neat thing is, these are in the unwrapped format, so they're in the pencil format, so you kind of get a different look of these stories that you've enjoyed before. Batman Unwrapped is 40% off, only $20.99, and the Blackest Night Unwrapped is 50% off, only $17.49. That's $17.49 for a deluxe hardcover edition.
Over at InStockTrades.com, Jim, we've got the Absolute Green Lantern Green Arrow hardcover. It's 50% off, only $49.99. The Demon trade paperback Volume 1, Hell's Hitman. This is some of the early appearances of Hitman from Garth Ennis and John McCrea. It's 50% off, only $9.99. Scalped hardcover, deluxe edition, booked 3 is out, 50% off, only $14.99. I'm a huge Disney fan. One of the latest releases is the Walt Disney Donald Duck newspaper strips. I'm a big fan of these archived newspaper strips and comic strips and things I wasn't able to read. They have the 30% off, only $27.99. They also have an amazing Spider-Man Ultimate Newspaper Comics collection. This is $79 to $81, 30% off, only $34.99. I grew up reading those Spider-Man comic strips. I am so on this. Just 'cause I love this kind of stuff. That's one of the great things about InStockTrades.com. Whatever you're into, they've got the collected editions. So head on over to InStockTrades.com and grab them at a discount. It's great to be able to do that. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy to the world. Enjoy the show.
And also, happy holidays. Let's talk some comics.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
Jim, our first discussion this episode is going to be of Batman number 47, Super Heavy Part 7. Scott Snyder is the writer, Greg Capullo on pencils, Danny Mickey on inks, FCO Placencia on colors, Steve Wan's letters, Capullo, Mickey, and Placencia on cover, Alex Ross on Harley's Little Black Book variant cover, Rebecca Taylor is the associate editor, Mark Doyle is the editor, Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. And apologies for any name butchery. Jim, this one was one we weren't really originally planning on talking about, but the Batman story has been so good. It's actually one of the things I'm really digging right now with DC. Like on this episode, we're talking about Flash, we're going to talk about Wonder Woman, we're going to talk about some of the cool Vertigo stuff. We got Titans Hunt. There's a lot of things we want to talk about this episode. It's exciting. Justice League's going on, which we're not going to talk about this week, but I know we're going to talk about on an upcoming show. There's so many cool, amazing things going on around DC right now. Batman is my go-to, though. When I pick up this book, I am floored constantly by the ongoing unfolding mystery. I'm going to jump right to it. Bruce is starting to know, right?
Yeah, he's starting to remember who he is, and I thought it was neat that Duke seems to already know this.
Yeah, it's really amazing what's going on here with him. We sees the train. The train all of a sudden, starts to have the appearance of a bat with him. And, it's kind of clicking to his old, as a child, he had that moment that, he saw the bat come not as a child, it was more as an older man when he saw like the bat come crashing through, and it kind of triggered this idea of criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot. I'm going to, be Batman. I'm going to take the form of a bat. I'm geeking out. I love Gordon as Batman, but oh man, am I geeking out right now.
I know. And it was funny because this was such a great story, going through with, Gordon fighting on and just, everything that this whole issue laid out, because you're sitting there, and we got some high action, some really cool hoorah moments for Gordon. He destroys the suit, but does so to take out the bad guy, and you're like, man, this is great. What just happened? But the neat thing was that wasn't the only major spoiler and major oh my god moment in this issue. Just when you think everything is at its high point, they've gone through some really cool swerves with Bruce starting to remember that last page, the final page of this issue. I was like, wait a minute, what? Oh my god, the Joker's still alive.
And the question is, does the Joker know who he is? These are going to be very interesting things going forward gradually with these two characters. The great part about that swerve is Snyder was implying all along that he'd kind of done his Joker story and he was done with the Joker. Now we got him sitting right at the bench with Bruce.
Yeah, he ain't done yet. It ain't over, and that's awesome. And I'll tell you, I think, again, who knows what the Joker knows, what he doesn't know, and I think that's going to be the neat thing going forward, because the fact that the Joker knew before and never said anything to anybody makes perfect sense. So if the Joker knows, he's not going to let on until it's at the right point in time for him to let people know, for him to let Bruce know, I know the truth. So we still have this great mystery. The mystery was solved before. Well, guess what? The mystery's back now, because we really don't know if the Joker knows or if he doesn't know, or if the Joker even knows who he is. I'm assuming he knows who he is by just, again, the Joker grin and the fact that he said, funny, I had an accident here as well. So that location is very important to Joker as well. So I'm assuming the Joker knows who he is. I'm going to guess he knows who Bruce is, but you never really know.
The interesting part, I love the whole discussion with Duke, between Bruce and Duke. Where Bruce is discovering everything and those type of things. You're the best in the world, and yet you won't look at what's right in front of your face. And I'm talking about denial. I'm talking about selfishness. The one place you don't look, not for real, because you don't want to. You want to be free of it. You want to be this guy. But anyone could be who you are now. The one you were before, that guy. No one could be you. You inspired us, Bruce, to be more than we could be, not to just be enough. Now, my question there, is he talking about former Bruce Wayne? Is he talking about Batman? What is he talking about there? It's interesting to see with what's going on with Duke. I can't wait to see where this goes. What does Duke actually know? What is Duke implying there? This storyline is like, I'm loving the Gordon stuff. And here's a funny part. I'm so focused on Bruce and Duke in this part of our conversation right now. This was really, I don't want to say a small part of this issue, but the main story was Gordon and Bloom. And that is a whole other animal we've got to get to talking about. I love the balance of the shifting between every character who we want to focus on in Batman right now. Scott Snyder is just really hitting a home run on writing by keeping, when you got one thing building up, you got another thing developing, you've got another thing paying off huge, and just when you think you know all the players in the game, talk about the other mystery there, Bloom. Yeah. Bloom is not just one person, one thing. There's more than one.
Yeah. Well, weeds spread, so that's kind of what I was going by. My thought process on that is he's not human. We always were toying around what is Bloom. Bloom's not human, I don't think, and it's because I don't think those are just people in costumes with similar power sets. I think that's actually is a piece of him. He's kind of got the whole multiple man thing going where he creates multiple versions of himself out there. Now, are these completely anatomical creatures? Is this all one hive brain? Is this... I don't know. And I think, again, this was the episode. This was an issue of where you'd get some answers, but then those answers would lead to another big swerve in mysteries. And I think that for me was just what made this this issue so great. It was funny when I was reading this thing. I knew, I'm like, oh yeah, Sean's going to want to talk about this. There's no way we're going this episode without talking about this, just because of the multiple layers of, oh my God, stories that happen in the Bat universe.
I love the handling of Rookie.
Yeah.
How he took Rookie out, but then was using the helmet as another sort of weapon. Gordon's ability to improvise, adapt, and overcome. I know that's a big thing you're always fond of. You've mentioned it many times on the show. But Gordon's ability to do that, I think, is something that's highlighted here.
Well, that's the human element of him and of Batman, of all the people who have non-powers. The Bat family have that great ability to improvise. And it's that scrambling. It's the Jackie Chan fight style where you're just constantly moving. You're using anything around you to hit people with and dive through and dive around and flip over and whatnot. That to me is what a regular, quote unquote, regular human would have to do in this universe. And I love seeing that type of character come out, because how would somebody like Jim Gordon actually be able to compete with this crazy meta-human powered, Bloom? He'd have to do stuff like this. He'd have to blow up his own armor, but have it set up so he knows he could trigger the blocker. So it was all laid out planning. It was all the strategery of Jim Gordon to actually lay down the trap, but it still wasn't enough, and I love that.
The artwork on this run is absolutely spectacular. Like, this is going to be, I think, a definitive artistic run. When you look back over history, you've got your Neil Adams, you've got your Jim Aparo. There's been many, many runs along the way. I'm not going to do that justice, because I could just start rattling off names of people who've had lengthy runs on Batman and have had an impact on defining like a style and a look and a visual. Kelly Jones, I'm thinking of, when that run was going on. Graham Nolan. There's a number of artists that I think of and identify with their lengthy tenure on Batman. This is going to be one of those. I mean, I just think that the artistic styling of the characters, the city, the vehicles, everything in this from start to finish has really been well thought out and defined. And I love the longevity of this run. I hope this team has more stories in store for us, because I think what they've done is they've just upped the bar on continuity and the sense of progression. These are stories that have all played off of the very beginnings of Scott Snyder's run straight on through to present, and it really has been captivating what's going on with Bruce and all. I can't wait to see. Duke, I'm digging. I mean, I know we've talked about this on multiple episodes now. Here's the thing. As much as I love Damian, I am so torn on who I would like to see be Robin when this is all said and done.
Man, it was funny. I was just about to say that. I mean, I'm getting ready to throw it out there that because last episode we talked a little bit about this as well, where could Damian take on a new name and Duke become the new Robin? And I was thinking Duke and Gordon, he would be Gordon's Robin. I'm like, man, that'd be kind of neat. But to be honest, he may become Bruce's Robin. Because you think about it, the point of Robin is always, Batman needs the Robin. He needs that character. And then Bruce really could definitely use Duke as his Robin, kind of that linchpin to bring him back. And Damian could go on and be his own character, be his own hero. I don't know what name he would run under. Part of me would like to see him, adopt the Nightwing name. I think that'd be kind of neat, kind of a nod off to when you're a Robin, you then go on to be a Nightwing. I think that'd be kind of neat seeing that. But to be honest, Damian wouldn't do that. There's a difference of being Batman's Robin as opposed to being the next Nightwing. He would be somebody else, his own personality, his own persona. But I don't know. I as much as I love the little monster, I really would like to see Duke as Bruce's Robin. Especially if you figure there's going to be a training period, there's going to be an adjustment period for Bruce. It's not just going to click back into place automatically. There's going to be that period where he's he's getting back his groove, and I think Duke would really help him out throughout that.
The look on his eyes when he sees the bat was just staggering to me. And I totally agree with everything you're saying. You know what I like about this? This reminds me of what I liked about Tim Drake's initial introduction into the Bat family. Tim really was there as if you're going back to Lonely Place of Dying, Tim was really there as a support piece for Bruce and was really kind of bringing him back to balance. And it looks like Duke, in his own way, is taking on that kind of role where you really see the purpose of Robin with Batman. It's a very different relationship than what he has with Damian. Damian's father and son. I don't know what I want out of this. I really don't, because every time I talk about, you mentioned the little monster, every time I talk about him, I'm like, but I love him.
I know.
I actually love that right now they could go a lot of different directions with this, and I would be very, very happy. Duke is definitely one of the contenders that I would like to see continue on in this capacity. Who knows where all this is going to go, but man, do they have me interested and excited right now.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Where would you, let me ask you a question. How soon do you want to see Bruce back, if that's where this is going? Because I'm in an interesting place right now. I'm so all over the place and torn on that.
I know, Matt. It's tough, because we both love Jim Gordon as Batman. I'm really digging Mecha Bat, and just because of Gordon, what Gordon brings to it, and what the Team Bat brings to it, and the fact that Batman is a licensed agent of the Gotham PD, and he's not a vigilante. He's an actual police officer. But he's Batman, and I love these moments in this fight where Gordon's basically calling himself on it, come on, Gordon, it's time to prove you've earned the cowl, and he's got those moments where he's got to step up. You're Batman, and the last couple issues he's had those moments where he's like, okay, Batman, time to do your job, and it's he had that gut check moments where he is becoming the Bat, and I don't want to see Gordon give it up, but I really do want to see Bruce back. Just because of these moments where you get these flashes. I would say, do a year, one more year, of Bruce on the discovery path before he actually puts on the cowl and confronts Gordon. Because that, I think, is going to be interesting when Bruce is formally back. What happens then?
Does it have to be a confrontation?
It might not be, but there will be a moment where those two are face to face, Gordon will look and see, yes, this is the real Bat. Okay, and either Gordon will stand down or he'll say, you know what, my friend, Batman's more than just a vigilante. Batman is Gotham PD now. And maybe they'll have an issue. Maybe Gordon will change, or maybe there'll be something else that will make Gordon realize, no, Batman needs to be this character in the shadows. Batman needs to be this person who is, who's not this, who's not him. It's got to be the real Bat. It's got to be back, and it could be that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting on that one because you see Gordon's relationship with Powers. You have to wonder to yourself, he tries to take himself off the grid many times with them.
Yeah.
Are they, with everything they're planning, with taking over cities and things like that, are they on the up and up? And if not, what is Bruce going to have to come back to? And what he's going to have to deal with. Because they're already looking at a plan to replace other heroes with similar, if this Batman version is successful, they want to do the same thing in other cities. To what purpose? It's very interesting to see what their overall real, true motivations are in this. And that's a part of the story that we haven't seen play out yet, but Gordon's radar is he doesn't completely trust them. And we've seen that very clearly on some of the ways that he operates.
Oh, God, yeah. And because it is the comic book universe and because it is Gotham, I'm going to say their ulterior motives are not good.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you always see that. So I think, in my head, I think the reason Gordon is going to end up stepping down from the Bat is because he's going to see the corruption on high. And he's going to know, okay, the reason Batman works is because he isn't corruptible, because it isn't a business, and that is, Gordon tried to keep the code and the conduct of the Bat alive, but in the end, big business is going to try to take it and twist it and ruin it. So I think I can see that's the reason Gordon steps down and turns it back over to the real Bat. So I think, that's in my head, that's where I think the story is going to go eventually. Now, the path there is going to be the journey. As we've seen in this one issue, the path getting from point A to point B is never a straight line, and I love that. That's one of the things I'm loving about this Bat universe is because they're doing these twists, turns, and zigs and zags, and that's something like, wow.
Oh, good.
I was going to say something really quick because you mentioned artwork before, and there's a scene that I didn't catch until probably my fourth read through. And it's it's the second to last page. It's right where Bruce is saying, I am Batman. He's just about to say, I am Batman. You look at Bruce's eye, inside the iris, you'll see the reflection of what is going to be the Joker. And it was funny because it's clear as a bell, but I was so focused on reading him say the words, I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out, that I didn't, it was during a art read-through, I was just looking at images that I noticed his image right there, just the bottom half of his image. I was like, wow. When I finally saw that, I was like, man, that's awesome.
I can't wait to see where that's going. I mean, really great writing. The Joker coming back when he did, I didn't know if they were going to, there was going to be a mystery. Did the Joker survive? Did he not? And then we'd eventually show up in the future. Plopping him back in now, I thought was just plain brilliant. I love that Snyder doesn't waste a lot of time and just gives you the stuff that you want. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to know what's going on with them. I'm loving Robo-Bat and Gordon and everything that's going on there. I'm digging that whole storyline. But, that it's that geeky Batman fan of me. I got to know what's going on with Bruce. I need that fix. He doesn't keep you waiting. He gives you that at the same time. And that's what I was talking about before with balance. This is something that I think, and Morrison did this too, after what happened with Final Crisis and stuff like that with Batman. We knew relatively quickly, what was going on with that. And I really like that because then the mystery takes on a different tone and a different turn. And it's more of the, okay, how, why, and where, and when. You start asking more questions because you already have that certain puzzle piece plug back in. It's just enough that you know what the final puzzle's supposed to look like, but you're still trying to find the pieces that go elsewhere from inside the box. It really just has that whole interactive thing that it's the best part about putting a puzzle together is when things start to get fleshed out, but yet you still got so many pieces to fill in. And that part is just really, really fantastic in the writing of this.
You know what? I'm going to take something back I said earlier.
Okay.
About Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is a multiple man thing. I think these are actually other people with similar power sets now. And part of my basis of that is when you look at that crowd of them, just how dramatically different. We have some males and some that look obviously females. And then back at the center, there's that one little girl finding that seed that was hidden behind the picture on the wall. I think that's people who get corrupted by those seeds he's planted.
Well, their control. I'm thinking it's more of a central hive mind that is controlling the rest.
Kind of like Starro.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking it is. Because you're right. I actually like that they're all different shapes and sizes, and you get that kind of idea. So I wonder, like, who's really under that mask, and if that's the real Bloom, even.
Maybe not. Actually, yeah, he could have been fighting the whole time, not the real Bloom.
Right.
How awesome would that be?
Yeah, it's all great. It's just a very interesting. I love this villain. This is a really cool villain.
Yeah.
This is very much what I liked about the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls became this really cool villain that you wanted to see more of. Their use has been very consistent, in the sense when they come in, it's a dramatic thing. I hope Bloom becomes that, because it's just another cool character to add to the mythos. Speaking of adding to the mythos and kind of redefining the mythos, you want to talk about Titan's Hunt? I know this is one that you were really big on talking about, and I'd love to talk about it too.
Oh, yeah. Our next discussion will be on Titan's Hunt, number 3. The writer is Dan Abnett with... Oh boy, I am going to butcher some names here, so I'm just going to start spelling them. Paulo, Siqueira, Geraldo Borges, and Jackson Herbert as the artists, with colors by Hi-Fi, Carlos M. Mangual as letterers, Yannick Paquette, and Nathan Fairbarn on covers, with Paul Kaminsky and Eddie Berganza as editors, and boy, did I do a horrible job with that one. I apologize.
This was wicked cool.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to figure out, like, is this an after effect of Convergence? Is there something else at play here? What this is basically reintroducing is the idea that as teens, there's a past history with the Titans. Now, it looks like these Titans in particular, we're talking, your Donna Troy, you got Aqualad, you got Robin, you got Speedy, the original crew, and even like Hawk and Dove and things like that. They have a past history together. Hatton Corners, we're going back to the original Brave and the Bold issue, where they were introduced way back when. Mm-hmm. So they're aware of their alternate timeline to a certain extent, but there's new players in the game. I'm really liking this. I don't know where it's going, as far as, who is pulling the strings. Lilith obviously is the connecting thread. She seems to be aware of everything. I really love the mix of going back to the original Brave and the Bold and the original series, honoring the wink and the nod to the Wolfman and Perez run, straight on through to now present day, the fact that this universe has shifted and changed. And this seems to be, at least from what I'm assuming here, they are remembering echoes of their past. And because the universe has shifted over, they're also remembering it and being connected to each other in slightly different ways than they were previously. Man, do I love this. I mean, it's really, for me, a geek out, because I grew up as a kid with classic Teen Titans and just really love seeing these characters brought back together. It's a great use. The one who I think is, for me, benefiting the most from this one is Donna Troy. It's kind of rounding off everything that I'm digging about her in the Wonder Woman book right now, and like finishing it off, bringing her back into the fold, kind of completing who she is as a character. And I'm loving that part of this so far, 3 issues in. Where are you at on this?
Oh, God, I am absolutely thrilled and excited and just like, yes, and this is, to me, is 100% Convergence related. This is a bleed over from the other universes that, if you remember at the end of Convergence, there was characters who were not from our universe in this universe, and there's a lot of bleed overs and a lot of kind of tweaking that happened. And this is one of those after effects. Now, I don't know who's actually is the main puppet master behind all of this, because Lilith, because of her connection, it looks like she's got full knowledge, but whoever that dark shadowy figure that she's dealing with and fighting. It's obviously it's a magic related type of character. That's who is either pulling in, either they're the conduit for all these previous lives and memories coming back to them, or they're just the main villain trying to take advantage of it. I don't know what actually triggered that, and I'm assuming by the end of the hunt, we'll find out who all the parties are and who all the players are, etc. But this has been just a great thing leading down it, because it was funny because I had to look up Narc. I had to look up, and I knew kind of who Malcolm was in Bumblebee, but I wasn't 100% certain, so I actually had to do a little bit more research. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's who that guy was, and that's who she was. But I loved how the fact that he was calling her his little Bumblebee, and that whole story behind why she was Bumblebee, why that was her nickname, when that was also her superhero name. And I thought that was just a kind of a cool thing where these people were never those heroes, but they have this connection because of the prior universe, and maybe we will see them become heroes, or maybe we won't. Maybe they'll just have that connection. I don't know, but I'm very excited with this story. This is a really cool adventure coming out.
Garth, having him kind of fleshed out as well, because we've seen him in recent Aquaman stories, and I've really enjoyed his appearances there. But again, this is connecting these characters in a way. It's giving them a history that they really don't have here, and at least it seems that they really don't have here. And I love that. I love the battle between the Atlantean and the Amazon, and the way that it comes out. It showcases these two as a warrior. In a way, it was warriors in a way that works. I don't know. I'm a geeky fan where I grew up with, superhero team ups where usually they started out like this.
It always starts with a fight.
Yeah, this is kind of the get to know you. The thing I really loved about this, though, was, again, the fan I am of riding along with any member of the Bat family. I felt like we were watching this with Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
And I loved that because we got a lot of his internal dialogue. Remember what Batman taught me about dealing with people who are bigger and more powerful and those type of things. I really loved that internal going back to my training, going back to my roots. I am trained to handle this. It is something I need to get away from this situation and regroup. I liked that. I liked that, hey, I'm a human. I need to get away, regroup, come up with a plan so that way I can be effective in this situation. But the real sense of danger, with the fact that these two are powerhouses and any one of them can turn on him and kill him in an instant, he needs to have a plan, needs to regroup and be in the spot. I really quite liked his portrayal here. And to me, it showed even more of his intelligence than if he was mixing it up with the two of them directly, if that makes any sense.
Oh, God, yeah. It's funny because on the surface, when you look at it and you see Dick pulling back, you're like, what? But that inner dialogue, which is something, we don't get in the normal Dick Grayson story, so it was kind of neat to see it here. But I loved how he's just sitting there saying, okay, find cover. The old group, regroup, figure out how to get them apart without getting killed in the process. And then even the assessment, the Atlantean, Amazonian, two of the oldest militant cultures on the planet. And I just liked how he was breaking down the process. But in the end, when all three of them burst into the room, into the Teen Titans clubhouse, and that's the kind of the trigger for them, like, wait, what? And even, Grayson's like, so not just me then, huh? I thought that was a kind of a neat moment where that was the ending of the violence.
I think one of the other things that worked for me in this whole thing was this sense of all three of these players are a little off their game because of the fact that they're having memories they can't explain. So they're trying to piece together, how do I know this person when I shouldn't know this person? Like Dick Grayson knows that Donna Troy is Donna Troy, but he's never met her before. He knows that, that Garth is Aqualad. He's familiar then with, they're at Hatton's Corner Teen Clubhouse, and you see it says Teen Titans there. And, they're sitting there looking at this going, I have echoes. I have memories of something that I really shouldn't have an echo of. And I really like how that all plays out. They're trying to regroup. They really should be at odds with each other. But for Dick Grayson, it's kind of like, if you're a member of the Bat family, one of the things that are basic tenets is control and discipline. How do you control and be disciplined in a situation like this where the math isn't adding up? Like, how do I know these things? It doesn't make any sense. It's a mystery. It's an unfolding mystery, but one that does not make sense. And it takes your training and pushes it a little to the side. And I really liked that part. I liked seeing Dick's reaction to this because I didn't feel he lost a step at all in it. It was more of, I liked that things felt a little bit different for him because of the situation, as it should.
And they're all being affected by this, and it's tweaking with their personalities, and it's throwing them off their game in ways they don't understand. I think part of that is the bleed over from the prior universe is coming through, and it is messing with stuff, especially like with Grayson. He's kind of scrambling and trying to figure this out, and it's an illogical situation. He's always said he's not the greatest of the detectives of them, but he still is a good detective. He still is a thinker. He was trained by the Bat, so he knows how to put pieces together. But in this circumstance, 1 + 1 does not equal 3. And when you get into that situation, when you have that logical mindset and you're trying to approach a logical way to an answer that's not logical. This is magic. This is supernatural. This is freaky stuff going on that the regular laws do not apply to. And I think that's kind of neat, seeing him off his game. And same thing with Roy Harper, where he's off his game as well, being affected by this. I love every time they show him staring at his one arm. And it's like, kind of like he's looking at it and he's like, this shouldn't be here. Something's not right. And he's always staring at the one arm that he ends up losing in the other universe. And it's kind of neat that that's messing with his head, and he doesn't know why it's messing with his head.
But also the tattoos that he's got there, the ink. He doesn't know where the ink, isn't able to put a finger on where the ink comes from. So that part's really interesting as well, that this is kind of having a shift for him. I'm going to be very curious to see how they balance out of this. And what this looks like in their own titles moving forward. Is this going to be something that will affect and change them permanently? Will they kind of go back to normal but be aware that this happened? I don't know. I'm very anxious to see how this plays out because this is a big happening for these characters. Yeah. Are they going to remember this and to what level?
Well, we've seen a couple references to this already in Grayson and in Red Hood. Red Hood and Red Arrow's title. So we've seen the connection already kind of unfolding. So this is going to be one of those things where I'm assuming we're going to get an actual, I don't know if we'll get a Titans, classic, title, but we're going to see, I think this is going to have permanent effects on this universe. And these are going to be heroes who they're going to build up from this point, and I'm part of me, I'm hoping it gives Donna Troy a place to go. It gives Aqualad a place to go. And even, these characters who do not currently have titles, or their solo titles, this gives them a place to actually use and build the characters. I'm really curious about the ones who right now aren't any type of superhero, Mal and Bumblebee, what happens to them?
Yeah, I agree. It's those characters are going to be interesting to me. Are they going to wind up somewhere? What does this mean for the Teen Titans book? As far as, is it going to affect that book in any way, shape, or form? Because obviously these are characters that aren't currently associated with it. Will it pay off for them later? I don't know.
I'm thinking at best we'll get a Titans book where it won't be the Teen Titans, but it will be these characters coming together periodically, kind of like how the Justice League sort of was set up where periodically these heroes would come together and do stuff. I'm seeing that kind of, I'm getting that kind of vibe from this. And, I don't know, I like it because it is kind of neat seeing, again, place for these characters to have these stories told. And just, I like this bleed over into the other universe. I'm loving and happy with the current universe, but if they can do stuff like this, maybe we'll get other bleed overs. Maybe we'll get other characters. And if you're not, completely beholden to just this current universe, where you're letting the creators pull things from other universes and from previous existence and put them into this place, it gives, freedom to the creative process to actually do this, because this has always been one of those sticky points that people had with the Titans, because in this universe, this version of Teen Titans never existed. And we had some great stories from these Titans that, aren't out there. Well, now maybe we'll get stories or versions of them or something bleed over where we'll actually see this happen. Because people like, Deathstroke, I'm wondering if he's affected by this. The main villains of these Titans, were they also affected by whatever this is? Or is it just the Titans who are affected by it?
I don't know, because it depends on how far back you go. What do you think about new characters like this caveman character?
Well, wasn't he around in like the 70s version of him?
Well, I don't know. Let me look back history-wise.
The only reason why I know this is because I did a wiki search on the guy, and they talked about how he was around for... I don't remember how many issues it was or whatnot, but he was a character who was around, who later he and Lilith kind of bonded because she really helped him through the process of being this caveman who was frozen in time, who gets freed into the modern world.
Yeah.
So I don't really know a lot about him other than what I read quickly online on him. Because he was because at first, when he first made his appearance, I thought he was Hawk. I thought, okay, this is Hawk. I'm like, wait, Hawk's around though. But so I was thinking this was Hawk. And then when Roy says his name, I'm like, oh, okay, wait, let me search that. Oh, okay, that's a caveman guy. I've never read any of his stories. So that's another character. I'm curious where he's going to play out in this. He's another one I'd like to see something happen.
Oh, I love this. See, I didn't know. I read a bunch of issues of the early Teen Titans, but then a lot of it I read very broken from the flea market. I've never read everything, though, from the original run. So I'm looking it up, too. It's really cool. Like I'm looking at right now, they had a blurb online about issue number 33 with Narc, the caveman, in there. And you're right, Lilith is in there as well. So, woof. But it looks like Narc is Lilith's boyfriend back in that day, too. So there's a history there. It's back in the old Nick Cardy stuff. It's cool. Wow. Neat stuff. And the cover's cool. And I'd like to read some of this stuff and sit down. I've got Showcase volumes, and I haven't finished everything that I've got there. I wonder how far it takes me, if it has all of it in there or not. Because I'd like to read some more of this stuff just to know there's a history there. Oh, I love that. I thought this was an original character for this. I like it more that it's not.
Yeah, that they're pulling from the classic Titans lore.
Mm-hmm. Really good stuff. Yeah, actually, now I want to read more of that just to see some of the history of what was going on with it. Because what I've read quite a few of the issues now in the Showcase volume, but obviously I didn't get to the point where we got to Narc. And now this is going to motivate me to go back. Trick is finding the time to read everything that I want to read. But this, you know what, a series like this would make me go back, because at least, or maybe jump ahead to some stories featuring Narc, just to kind of see what the character looked like back in the day. But that's really neat. Good stuff.
And talking about artwork from before, about just, I'm really digging this look of Donna Troy. I really, really like, just the Wonder Woman style, Amazon warrior garb and just everything. This is a really, really cool look for her.
It's a nice nod to her classic outfit. I actually like in Wonder Woman right now that we're seeing her in the black and gray too, like she used to have back in the day. I like the idea of characters like Donna Troy and Wonder Woman perhaps having more than one costume, Yeah. Having like the battle armor set, having like, street clothes set, those type of things. I like that. It just kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, see, I agree with you. What we see in Wonder Woman is a pretty cool look, but for me right here, this looks like an Amazon warrior / superhero type of costume. This looks to me like a superhero costume, whereas the other one does look cool, and I've always the Starry Night look one, where it's the star look that she was running for a while. I'm like, okay, but for me, this battle armor, this Amazon armor, and just for me, this fits a lot better. I don't know. This is my groove right here.
Well, no, I'm not disagreeing with that, but the stuff in Wonder Woman's obviously a nod to classic fans who've read Donna for years. So I mean, it's nice that they're putting both into play. Here's the thing: you can have everything, which I really like. I actually like that they're doing that, giving a little bit of everything. Hawk and Dove, it's great to see them back because I liked them in the start of the New 52, and then they just kind of vanished because the series dropped off. Putting them here and having them in this role, I'm ready now to see Hawk and Dove kind of fleshed out.
No, why didn't Dove hear the sound, but Hawk did? Did this version not appear in the original Titans?
It was the brother. It was the brother,
Yeah.
Right.
Did I just answer duh.
Oh, good catch.
And in this universe, that brother is also dead, right? Yeah.
Right. Oh, this is great stuff.
I know. And I'm like, man, it is funny because these kind of stories right here make me want to dig out the old Titans issues, make me want to pull out some of the trades that I have, and actually read some of this stuff and see, okay, let me see these people in action, because this is a 12-issue series that I hope does turn into something, because I'm really digging this. I'm digging how the story's laid out, and just seeing these characters that the one I don't know, Malcolm and Bumblebee, I have very little information on, but I've always thought those were two kind of cool characters, and bringing back Hawk and Dove, who, like you, I really like the characters. I didn't want to see that series end, especially, just as they were starting to build and starting to grow as a team. So now they're back in play. So maybe we'll get to keep them around for a bit.
Yeah, that part to me is really kind of fun to see them back again. The more the series goes on, I kind of would like to see this become a series. Like with this group. I mean, just let them go and let it continue on with this group.
Hey, I'm 100% behind a Titans book.
Yeah.
And I'd call it Titans.
Yeah.
Because they've done that before with the older versions, having them call them the Titans. And I think it would fit. And it's interesting not to have that they don't have Cyborg in this, which they could always pull into it. Beast Boy is another one they could pull into it, which, like Beast Boy and Kid Flash are now, in this universe. And are they affected by this, or is it just these people? How far back does this Titan search go?
Well, but it's not Wally.
Oh, right. Wally was... duh.
And this is going back to the original Titans, so Cyborg wouldn't be a part of that. Beast Boy wouldn't be a part of that. It's actually this group, especially now that you pointed out that Caveman was a part of that. I like really what they're doing here is taking a group of characters that you can throw together and give them a rich history without derailing anything you're doing with any of the other characters that are on the table. Like Cyborg can still be a part of Justice League because he wouldn't have had these memories. He wouldn't have been connected the way this group is. So this is a smart move. You're giving a history and a longevity to these particular characters that really doesn't affect any of the other characters that were part of the Titans later, who have moved on to other roles. Like Beast Boy's role obviously is already set in Teen Titans. Cyborg's role is set in Justice League. You aren't derailing any of that by doing this. I really quite like what they're doing here. It's a very clever story.
Yeah. And it's pulling some of the old continuity back in, but it's not just pulling the continuity. They're telling a current, mystery, a cool story, because who is this shadowy figure? What is his end game or her end game? How is, what is the connection? Where's this going to play out? So we've got this active live story that is also pulling in some of the past. So it's kind of neat that they're not just throwing it in, but they're pulling it in through story. They're pulling it in and they're creating something, from the past, to possibly, hopefully go forward into the future.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Jim, this is kind of the perfect segue, speaking of Donna Troy, to talk about Wonder Woman number 46. Meredith Finch is the writer, David Finch on pencils, Scott Hanna on inks, Brad Anderson on colors, Rob Leigh letterer, Finch on the cover, Terry Dodson, Rachel Dodson, Spike Brandt, Looney Tunes variant cover, Paul Kaminsky, associate editor, Mike Cotton editor, Eddie Berganza is the group editor. Wonder Woman created by William Moulton Marston. I am so loving Wonder Woman. This creative team has done, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, they've done a great job of everything that Azzarello did in that run to kind of recreate and reimagine Wonder Woman, the gods, all of that. He laid a foundation work. They've shifted status quo with this particular title, but in the same time, while they've created new toys and Donna Troy and brought her back, and it's one of the things, honestly, Wonder Woman is one of the reasons why I'm digging Titans Hunt so much, because I'm so fascinated by Donna Troy here. So I really like the balance of the fact that we're getting a Donna Troy here that is an echo of the Donna Troy that we used to love and grew up with, while reimagining her and reintroducing her. We're seeing her gradually become the character that could be a hero again, and I like how this storyline's gone there, while at the same time really doing some great character development with Diana and her relationship with the gods and what it means to be the god of war and her own struggles with the role of being the god of war in her relationship with the god of peace as well. What an incredible arc with a lot of depth that spins out of what Azzarello did so well and takes it to a different place and a different level. Great for fans that have been with this series all along. And it feels fresh. It feels new. The artwork's always fantastic. Wonder Woman's been a book. We haven't really talked about it as much as we probably should have, because it's one of my favorite titles. We got a lot of really good books coming out of DC right now, and Wonder Woman is certainly one of the ones I jump to when it comes out every month.
Yep, this one was one of those holy crud kind of issues for me, because the concept of the god of war and the god of peace, and just what is the nature of Wonder Woman, and who she is and what she's about, how she's not really being the quote unquote god of war, and I love just that concept and just how she was bringing it forth. And it was something that never even entered my head. And I think that for me was one of my really deep enjoyments of this. I've really have enjoyed this Wonder Woman run, and just everything, when from the beginning, and it started shifting, and we're getting, as I noticed, we started getting more of that diplomat, Wonder Woman, that Wonder Woman who wasn't just about, I'm going to walk in and punch everybody, and I love just how seeing the evolution and the growth of the character and her getting adjusted to the role of a hero. And then when she becomes the god of war, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And just looking at all that, but it never really dawned on me that she wasn't being the god of war. She was acting more like the god of peace. And I thought that for me, I was like, wow. And then just this issue with the confrontation between the two of them where they're going at it. I love those moments where she kept yelling at her, "You're not the god of peace. I am." And she has the god of peace is just slamming on her, throwing energy bolts, hurting innocent people, doing all this stuff. And she's like, I don't want to actually do this, but I have to because you're not being the god of war. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
The god of peace is a little off her rocker, though.
Well, she's out of balance. And that's, I think, the synergy of what is war and peace, and it's because a lot of times, various military people, throughout history is always referred to as warmongers. And, a lot of them will counteract, hey, we're not the promotion of war, we're the defense of peace. And it's that concept of, fighting for peace has always been the big, stickler as to what is the military doing? What are they doing this? And it's been the basic notion of, that sometimes you accomplish peace through negotiation and through diplomacy, but sometimes, you need a big stick. Sometimes you need to hit somebody to have peace, and that is the balance. But with Diana as this god of war who's not embracing the war, but who's embracing more of the peace, it's throwing everything off kilter. We're seeing Diana get physically ill and injure herself, and to me, I see it as the god of peace is getting mentally ill because she's not able to be the goddess of peace. She's kind of a little bit acting on war side, and things are shifting.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that part. You know who I love? Zeke. I love Zeke's random appearance there, how we start to figure out who Zeke... I think we kind of knew all along who Zeke really was, but I like how Zeke shows up on the scene, and he's helping out with Donna Troy, and how that's all playing out. And I love seeing how, as Zeke's picked up by Wonder Woman, he's, still trying to reach over and do what he can for Donna. I really loved seeing things from a different lens, following different characters and seeing where they were going. It was really terrific stuff. I am going to say it again. I love this Wonder Woman outfit. This is a great one, and it harkens to what you were saying in Titan's Hunt, and I really wasn't disagreeing with you there. I think one of the things, as much as I love this Wonder Woman outfit, I would have no issue with her jumping back to her other outfit and back to this, and because it's kind of very much a female thing, to kind of dress it up and accessorize and kind of, go out in the town for different reasons and different outfits. And it would make sense for a female superhero. to do something similar. And I think that's been explored to a certain level, but never really taken where it could go. And, in the sense that I don't want to see him like in 85 different fashion outfits. I don't mean it that way. But Wonder Woman was always a character. One of the things I loved that we had her basic outfit always, the classic, Wonder Woman outfit. But then when she was going to war, when they introduced that suit of armor and that armored look to her, I really liked that she had a battle armor. And I think that's a tenet of the character. And I as much as I love this new outfit, I would love to see a battle armor version of it. You know what I mean? Just to kind of see that in there, because I've always liked that concept. It's kind of similar to what you were saying with Donna Troy when she had that outfit on. I have no problem with the fact that we see her sometimes in this book in the black and gray. I like when it's time to suit up and really get busy and get into, Wonder Girl mode or, Donna Troy mode, whatever you want to call it, that she's got that battle armor that you see in Titan's Hunt. It's just a different shift in a mindset, like now I mean business, if that makes sense. I like that about Wonder Woman as well. It's what I like about the battle armor. It's really where I'm going with that. I like that these are certain characters, because of their warrior style, that they wouldn't always be dressed in warrior mode. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But when they are, you better watch out.
It's go time.
Yes, exactly. That's what I like about it. And that's why I think if you have that on all the time, or if you're doing that all the time, it doesn't have the same impact of exactly what you just said. It's go time. And I like that. That's a very, I think, Amazon warrior, Wonder Woman kind of thing. When you see her in the armor and she has that sword out, that concept, back in the day, that meant something. And you're just kind of like, whoa, you better watch out for her. That's the kind of thing that I really like and I want to see more of in the character and what's going forward with her. And I think they're doing a really good job right now of explaining why they have certain outfits and what's going on. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny because you mentioned Zeke before with him reaching for Donna and all that. That was something that I caught during my initial read through. Normally I wouldn't catch the subtleties, but the way they did the artwork on this was a great usage of just the subtle looks on the kid's face, knowing that there's something more to him. And then as he's that initial reaching out to Donna, and then even when Wonder Woman picks him up, he's still going, come on. They did a great job of putting that in there right from the get-go, where you can see that reaching out. And I didn't know where it was going to go. I was just thinking he was just going to heal her, but I didn't see complete restoration, complete rebooting of the gods. I didn't see that coming. I think that for me was a great swerve because I knew there was something going to happen, but I didn't know the actual end game. I thought for me that was kind of a neat that they've got this plan laid out and they're giving us the clues. They're laying it down the line, but in the end, there's still one last minute, boop, surprise, I'm going to go somewhere else with it. And I that's something I was enjoying the story where, as it unfolds, as it plays out, you get that last moment of, here you go, time for a change. And that's kind of a neat thing that I'm digging on the Wonder Woman story arc that's been played out.
I like that Donna becomes Fate.
Yeah.
And in many ways that adds a balance to her. She's kind of reborn with a role and a purpose, and understanding kind of at the core who she is and how she can affect and change the world. I really want to see more of this and more of where it goes. It's a character that's really starting to interest me. And a book like Titans, to me, would be a great way. I want to see more of her in Wonder Woman, obviously, but I also would love to see her showcased more in a book like Titans, interacting with heroes in our world now that we got her in this place. I loved her arc. I loved her whole story. I love that it's not over, but I like that we've seen in this particular issue a transition for her. She died very angry, came back with a purpose. I don't know that that's the whole story, where you can look at that and go, well, now she's magically everything's okay. I don't think that's the case. Her complexities I find very compelling. I think she's this is an interesting version of Donna Troy.
Oh God, yeah. And I like the fact that she was the little blob of clay, not Wonder Woman. That is her origin story. But it was neat because it wasn't just the clay; it was the clay taken from desperation and anger. And she was built to kill Wonder Woman. She was built as this instrument of death and destruction, but Wonder Woman was able to bring out the good in her, able to get her some reform, able to actually work with her. And I thought that was the cool part of the story of Donna Troy, that, Wonder Woman didn't kill her. She locked her up and she kept visiting her and trying to convince her, hey, there's a better way. And that is such a classic Wonder Woman, such a classic, who she is. But then again, going back to this issue, you look back, say, that wasn't the God of War way of doing it. I'm like, oh my God. So all the stuff that I was enjoying so much was part of the reason why, the Goddess of Peace was going nuts, because the God of War was doing her job. And you go back through and you reread the Wonder Woman run after she became the God of War. You look at everything completely differently. And you start going, oh yeah, okay, that's another time that would anger her. That's another time that would anger her. And even looking forward with her relationship with Clark and her relationship with the on the Justice League, everything that's gone on with her, that she is this instrument of peace, not an instrument of war. And you think back to the flash forward, the 5-year flash forward they did, where she actually becomes the Goddess of Peace, and she actually completes that journey. That, like, there's so much, they're laying down the groundwork right here for us, and I'm like, this is awesome.
I can't wait to see. Now that the Goddess of Peace is back with the God of War, she still seems off. I mean, especially with how she handles things at the end of the issue. I don't think this story's over for Wonder Woman and her relationship with them. Now, Wonder Woman now, does that mean she's no longer the God of War?
Yeah, she's no longer the God of War. She's just Wonder Woman, which is still pretty cool. But I think the Goddess of Peace was corrupted by this. And you're talking about her being off kilter. She still is a little off kilter.
Yes.
And I think that's going to lead to them needing a new Goddess of Peace. And that's where Wonder Woman is actually going to play off the role. She's going to become that. I'm completely thinking she's now done with being the God of War, which, again, I thought it was cool that she was, but I'm really digging the fact that she really could be the Goddess of Peace. And she's not going to lose a step as Wonder Woman, because, as I said earlier, sometimes peace is accomplished, through, a good right cross. So sometimes you need to have a level of violence. Sometimes you need to fight for peace. So, and that's who Wonder Woman is. She will try to seek better, the diplomacy. She'll try to find a better way, but there's those moments when she's got to throw down, she'll throw down. And, I was like, just everything laying out here, I'm so pumped and excited for what's going to happen. Especially, I want to see the reaction between her and Clark now that she's no longer the goddess, no longer the God of War. Is there going to be any difference between the two of them?
Yeah, their whole relationship is just really captivating. I'm digging that Superman Wonder Woman series, and actually, how it's blending into the other Superman books because of everything you're saying. It's just very, very interesting.
An art scene that absolutely just captivated me was it's when Diana and the Goddess of Peace are going around looking at the different images, and they're having their debate about nature of God of War, nature of God and peace. When they're at that one kind of large rally where you've got the crazy guy up there leading, and all the people around there look like they're terrified and been tortured and all that, the intensity in her eyes when she's talking about the fact that the Justice League was created to stop violence, to stop people like this. And she's like, you'll be powerless to prevent it. Even the great and mighty Wonder Woman and her Justice League cannot be everywhere at once. No, but I can try. And just that intensity on that half panel on her face, that image right there, I'm like, oh, that looks awesome.
Before we jump into the Flash, I want to talk about the Looney Tunes variant cover for this issue. I loved it. It was Elmer Fudd doing that, opera singer bit from back in the old classic cartoon with Diana over up to the side. That's one of my favorite cartoons, with him and Bugs when they were doing that particular opera sequence. So it's cool to see Diana be a part of that.
The Looney Tune covers have been awesome. Those have been I've been chuckling with a lot of those covers. You had the Marvin the Martian with Green Lantern. You had a couple. Oh God, what was the one the Flash one where he's racing
Speedy Gonzalez and the Roadrunner. Yeah.
Roadrunner, yeah. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, I dig the Looney Tune covers. Those are, again, I picked up the bundles for those, so it's kind of, you know, I get all those, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat, you know. And I'm glad I'm getting them, you know, because I know in the past I probably wouldn't have done it, but for some reason I'm like, hey, these are kind of neat.
And speaking of the Flash, let's jump to issue number 46 of that, End of the Hunt. Robert Venditti and Van Jensen are the writers, Brett Booth on pencils, Norm Ratman on inks, Andrew Dahlhaus on colors, Pat Brousseau letters, Booth, Ratman, and Dahlhaus on cover, Francis Manapul and Spike Brandt on the Looney Tunes variant cover, Amadeo Turturro, I know I was going to butcher that, assistant editor. Brian Cunningham is the group editor, and apologies for any name butchery. I am a total Flash geek. I really started loving the character during the Wade run. That continued through John, straight on through. I went back and read a bunch of the issues predating that. I haven't read everything, but one of my goals is to eventually have, because I love and adore the character and the concept. Wow, has this story been great with Zoom and the whole team, and this idea of manipulation and betrayal and being used and discrediting Barry and Barry's supporting cast being a part of this. Not just Dad, but the police force and the city really just all came together. And I can't comment enough on how I'm digging the new Flash outfit. I think everything about this book is just coming together in a way that's really satisfying. I'm on my edge of my seat with the Flash. I jump to this every month when it comes out. They're telling really great stories that are epic and big in the way that I loved when Wade and Johns were writing it. I mean, this is really a team that's really delivering full thrusters.
Oh, big time. Big time. Yeah, the Flash has been, again, one of those titles that as it grew, as the issues were developing, as it's growing, my love for Barry Allen as the Flash has grown, and then add to it the cool TV show that I'm like, man, this is awesome. I'm very happy with this character and who he is and what he's about. It's one of the things that these are some great cool stories, but I'm really, really digging the artwork. And this is something where they're showing the motion and the fluidness that is the Flash, especially when they do these special panels where it's the non-traditional panel layout that really add to the bam, multiple hits where he's disarms, gets out of the handcuffs, disarms the entire police force around him in a flash. And it's a no pun intended. Actually, I was going to say no pun intended, but pun was intended there. But it was a great sequence. It's like, man, that's awesome. And then right there, the next page, the captain's like, don't you get it? You just disarmed the entire SWAT unit in seconds. It proves you are too powerful, too dangerous. I was like, yeah, that kind of is a good argument there.
I quite like that, actually, because, in a world where, you've got these superpower heroes and you've got people who are doing a certain job, and you've got this hero who can operate outside of your own rules. We all have rules at our job, right? I mean, there's certain things that we can do. There's certain things that we can't do. If somebody comes strolling in and they're able to break every one of those rules and in many times get a pat on the back that you aren't afforded or aren't afforded on the level of that person, it starts to infuriate you. I can see that being something that would build up on the inside. I think some people have a strength of character where they can just kind of recognize what like a Barry's doing, but I can see other people kind of going, yeah, but here's the problem. If we okay you and give you a thumbs up, where do we stop? You're dangerous and powerful. Do we do the same thing with the next dangerous and powerful guy that comes through? When do laws matter? When do rules matter? I love that thinking. I love that thought process. Obviously I'm team pro Barry, but I love that the argument makes a lot of sense to be analyzed. And I can see a lot of people rallying behind an idea like that. And I see other people being a different kind of idealist and rallying behind the Flash. But it is, very rooted in reality, the debate.
Yeah, and it's in this, it's funny because in the comic book universe, you have these vigilantes running around with kind of free reign. And they're not cops. They do not have, the actual arrest authority. And you could seriously have a massive legal issues with anybody arrested by or brought down by a vigilante because, and I know they've run stories like this and they've done stories in movies and TV shows and whatnot. But when it comes time for trial, who's going to testify? Only thing the police can testify is we arrived on the scene. This guy was knocked unconscious by someone we think is a hero. They didn't really witness the villain activity. They didn't see what exactly was going on. So if that hero doesn't show up and testify in court, in theory, you could probably walk. And it's kind of neat seeing this reaction that the police force is having with him. We saw some issues with this in Metropolis with Superman. We're seeing issues like this with in Gotham with Batman. It's where the police need to be recognized. The police need to actually be the ones who are doing the arrests and doing the actual work. That's a very modern mindset, to the present day. Just who we are. We already look at police and various law enforcement agencies with under a fine-tooth comb now, where people are worried about police corruption or an abuse of power and just the government spying on me. They're doing this, and in this environment, how trusting would we be of heroes? How trusting would we let them have this free reign? So I'm so glad that in the comic book element, the people who should be addressing this, the people who should be mentioning this, are actually mentioning this. And it's across the board. That's something I'm very happy with, especially considering Barry's personal relationship with the police department, his relationship with this captain who doesn't know that it's Barry Allen underneath the mask. I think that for me is something that's kind of really neat and adds a whole nother coolness to the story.
I love the use of the folded man, and like when a couple issues ago when they had Barry with that underwater trap, they were really out to get him, but they believed that Barry was the villain of the piece. So, they were going off of Thawne, and Thawne was very, very convincing. As Thawne starts to gain more and more power, though, he no longer needs them, but he still needs their power, and the true nature of his plan is revealed. He wants to take their powers. He wants to take over for Barry. You start to become, on the end, who's really the monster here. Thawne's thirst. I would love to see stories set in the future with Thawne. I would like to see, a fleshed out origin of this Thawne, just to see what that world looks like.
Yeah, see where he comes from. I completely agree with you on that. I'd love to see what made him hate Barry Allen so much. What made him hate the Flash so much? Is it simply revenge, or is there something beyond that? Because there's always seems like there's something beyond just simple revenge, just simple quest for power. I think that for me is always the kind of interesting thing where maybe at one point in time, this guy was an actual decent person who, because of something happened, it's that one little event can change everything. It's that butterfly effect type of thing. And I wonder where that goes. We saw the corrupted version of Barry Allen who was doing the time traveling back, who was trying to fix all the wrongs and actually taking lives. And so we saw that corrupted version of Barry, who it was still the same Barry Allen, but because of certain events, he was, taking out people. He had crossed over that line. I want to know, is that the way Thawne is, or is he just bad? Is he just the bad guy? And again, it's funny because you got these cool debates going about the nature of the hero and should he be this. But as this is going on, we've got these great fight sequences. One, both speedster versus speedster, but then this team that was brought together to take down a speedster. Well, they're still working together. They just realized, hey, we're fighting the wrong speedster. Yeah. And I love the shift. And I love when they start getting the advantage over him. They're like, maybe you taught us too well how to fight a speedster, pal. I cheered at that moment.
I did too. It was nice to see how Barry kind of righted the ship. Yeah. And counted on the fact that, hey, if I give you some real information or you see what's really going on, they're going to go together. I like that they also, though, they don't have an allegiance to Barry. Like, when it's time to exit, they just exit and leave Barry alone with Thawne because, that's kind of how they roll. They want to take care of their own people. In many ways, they're becoming their own group of rogues.
Exactly, yeah.
And I can see them coming back as enemies of Barry later on, possibly. Who knows what they're going to be. But I really love the nature of the Flash's villains and how they feel. Like we talked earlier in the episode about Batman. And in that issue, actually, we see members of Batman's Rogues Gallery beyond just Bloom. And I really like that Barry's villains always feel very different from Batman's. They're just as colorful, they're just as unique and interesting, but because Barry's world is a little brighter, his villains feel a little different in their presentation, in their battles, the way Barry deals with them. It's just really, really different, and that's what keeps this book fresh. And it's one of the reasons why I think The Flash I have a real affinity for is I really like his villains just as much as I like him. I like his supporting cast just as much as I like him. It's everything I like about the Bat Family books with a very different tone because the lead character, The Flash, is just very different. And I really like that they have taken the rich history of The Flash, kept all those important pieces in, while keeping this feeling very contemporary and not beholden to the TV series. Because I adore the TV series. You mentioned it earlier. I think the TV series is just, wow, running full guns. But I think there's a limitation when you try to fit a comic book into that. And I think vice versa. With the TV series, sometimes when you're too beholden to the comic, there's an issue. It's really taking a look at how do we stay true to the core and make it fit for each particular medium. I'm actually excited now more and more for the idea of a Flash film featuring a different guy playing the Flash, just because all of this other stuff is working so well right now that I wouldn't mind seeing a feature film with the other guy now. Whereas before I was kind of like, really, we're doing somebody different when you got this great TV series right now? I'm in a different place. I'm interested in. I want to see it. I want to see it do well. I actually like that they're not saying that character's on TV, so we can't do a movie, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with you completely. I again, with the different universes of the TV, movie, and comic books, I'm cool with them keeping them separate and running at the same time because I'm getting 3 cool stories that way. It's this Flash, this Barry, this universe is its entity, and I'm loving this. But when I jump on the TV show, I like the fact that there are the commonalities, but there are differences and there are tweaks to it. And same thing with what we're going to get in the movie, when that character comes out, or if he gets his own solo feature film, or if he's just going to be part of the Justice League. I'm not 100% certain where they're going with any of this stuff, but I'm on board. Especially you keep giving me these stories in this book where as it's going along, I'm like, okay, we get more and more, and it keeps giving piece after piece after piece. But even as, again, another story where it's building, it's giving us, more information. But even as it's giving more information, there's still another twist. There's still another turn. We have another version of a rogues gallery that may or may not be future enemies of Barry. We don't know. We've got Thawne dealing with the dad who now knows the secret that Barry is the Flash. Where is that going to play out? What's going to happen to the dad? Is he going to survive this fight sequence? Is he going back to prison? Is he going to be free? There's a lot of mysteries that are still going to get played out. And also, who is Thawne? Who is this guy? What's his deal? What's his story? They've given us a bunch of information, but they're still laying out more for the future. I think that for me is a great concept and a great idea that the writers and the storytellers that I really enjoy, they give you that story, they lay your future, they give you some twists and turns along the way. And that to me is captivating entertainment.
Barry's dad creating this weapon, but then finding out that his son is in fact the Flash. Yeah. I can't wait to see the after effects of this. And they're taken back to the Allen home, and this is the guy that killed the mom. The two of them now have to face and deal with the villain that did all this. This has been building really since the start of this series, and I love how this is playing out. And I like that it's, again, to our discussion earlier, so different than the TV series. It works, but yet I would hand this book in an instant to somebody who loves the series.
Yes, completely agree. This is one of those books where it's different, but it's still the heart and soul of who Barry is, the heart and soul of who these villains are, it's still being captivated. It's different, but you're still getting that same energy and that same vibe, especially with Barry. I really do love the fact that Barry is this positive hero. Mm-hmm. You know, he has the dun da da moments, where he's the hero that runs into the light. He runs in the light. He is the living lightning. He's got that energy to him. And that's, you go back to, where he ended up being a Blue Lantern, for a while there. He is hope. He is that positive energy. That is Barry Allen.
This is one of those books that I really like, that it has a modern flair and feel to it. It's the same world that, they're leery of superheroes that we see in the New 52 in general. But Barry, because of the nature of who he is at his core, still maintains that positive. And it makes this book fun. This is a fun book. Like, when I read this, I smile. I get excited. It's definitely, you're right, the dun-da-da, it just really works here. And I'm glad that the creators involved with this run of Barry from the start straight on through to here, because it's been consistent in the New 52 with this character. This character's maintained this swagger, and I love that about him. It's just a fun, exciting book. It's a breath of fresh air when everything's kind of got a gritty sort of spin. It's fun to have these accessible characters. It's what I liked about books like Invincible, especially like Invincible's first year. I'm still reading and loving Invincible, so please don't take this as a negative on Invincible now. The first year of Invincible really got me excited for it. Reminded me of reading Spider-Man when I was young. Ultimate Spider-Man, when it kicked off, had that. In both iterations, when it was Peter and it was Miles, when it kicked off, had that sense of wonder and fun. This Barry Allen book has that sense of wonder and fun, and I need that. It's kind of a nice break from some of the darker and grittier books, and I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love that as well. I like the balance. This is really, really good. I can't wait to see this battle. And actually, I love that the next tagline is, "Who is the Eobard Thawne?"
Because, I think what we just said, where we want to know who he is, I think that's what next issue is.
I don't think he was ever a nice guy. That's going to be my take on it. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I'm admittedly making an assumption there. I'm thinking a lot of this comes off of jealousy.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Or maybe he just needs a hug. Maybe that's all. All he just needed was some kind words and a hug.
Too funny. Let's. You want to talk New Romancer?
Yeah. Speaking of hugging.
Our next conversation is going to be about New Romancer number 1. The writer is Peter Milligan. The artist and cover is Brett Parson. Todd Klein on letters. Rowena Yao is associate editor. Shelley Bond is the editor. New Romancer is created by Milligan and Parson. I had no clue what this one was going to be about, and man, is it fun. I love the idea that we're following Byron and Lexi and this kind of budding relationship of sorts, infatuation that Lexi has with like this written word that leads her to have these feelings for a Byron who seems to actually be here now. I like that he feels like a fish out of water, but because of the crowd that he winds up hanging out with, he somehow seems to fit in too. He's, like eccentric works in certain crowds and circles. It's a fun book. And it's one of those where after reading the first issue, I'm really excited for issue 2. I want some more answers to the questions that I'm asking. Like, I want to know about Casanova's motivations. It's definitely quirky. And I mean that in the best possible way. I was looking for a good quirky read. I didn't know I'd find it here. Because I'm a big Peter Milligan fan. So that was enough to pull me in on this one. But it was not at all what I expected in the best possible way in the world. Where are you at on this book?
Man, when I read, when they first started talking about the new launches and all that, and I was reading what little I had read about it, I was like, yeah. I'm like, well, I'm getting the bundle of them, so I'll get it. And then when even up into the point of starting to read it, I was like, what is going to be this? And I gotta tell you, man, not even halfway through this first issue, I was like, oh yeah, we got a score here. I'm absolutely crazy about this book just because, romanticizing the romance story, and just that, I always chuckle when people talk about the great love story of Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet was a story about two 13-year-olds who kill themselves. It wasn't a love story. It was a tragedy. And so we have all these great, Lord Byron, we've got Casanova, all this wonderful romance. You know what? The romance isn't always the best thing in the world. We have this, we look at it through rose-colored glasses and say, oh, look how sweet and wonderful it is. No, there is the darkness to it. It's kind of like that, it's kind of like we had with our discussion of the nature of war and peace, where romance has that same type of, there is that wonderful positive goodness that love and romance can have, but you know what? Love can also really bring out some nastiness in people, can really have some darkness. And I was absolutely loving the fact that we get kind of this, notions coming from this book. On top of it, we've got this mystery behind what is this company doing? What is the craziness with these bodies and just the clones and whatnot. There's like so many different levels of what this story is going to be than I ever thought it was. I am all in and just absolutely excited for this book. This is going to be one of those books that I'm going to keep jumping to.
Well, it's a modern day Frankenstein filled with like AI and technology, and yet this sense of let's bring forward classic figures from history and plop them into today. I really like that kind of quirky twist to the whole thing. When they're all waking up in that lab and you start to get the idea once they start talking that, oh my gosh, these are, a lot of them are classic, historical or literary figures that have been brought to life and plopped down in today's world. And what does that look like? That's neat.
Well, the one obvious, I'm assuming the one is Mata Hari, right? Because she's like, I'm not a spy. I'm not, like, okay, that could be. And then you've got Byron, and just, I'm trying to figure out who the different people are. To me, it's looked like they're bringing back the classic literature people, people from classic literature stories, and just, what is their end? What is this company's end game with the golems? What is their end game when dealing with this? I was like, man, this is kind of, I'm very excited for this. I want to know who this company is. I want to know more about Lexi because, she seems like, again, one of those cool, quirky, characters who you're like, okay, where's she going to go with? What's she going to do? And then even the rest of the team that's at New Romancers, are we going to get kind of like a team New Romancer? Is a team Lexi going to be in play, or is this going to be just a sidekick, kind of deal? What's, a buddy cop type of thing between the two of them, or are we going to get the full team involved with it? There's so many different stuff where I'm wondering where they're going to go with this and who's going to be next to bring in, who gets brought in next into the story. There's a lot that can happen here. I'm very excited.
I love his whole reaction when she says, I think I transported you. You have done this to me, a mere maid?
and then she comes back. I thought that was just, again, she's this strong character where she's like, hey, whoa, hold on. There's a lot of, talks about the 80, the first person to write computer program was a female, and he even mentioned Ada, my precious daughter, I thought that was kind of a neat thing where she, doesn't just lay down for it. She fires back, and she's, again, she's that strong character. And I'm like, this is kind of neat.
The interplay between the two of them was really where this book picked up for me, because I loved seeing him. You left your child when she was a baby. I never once forgot her. But you didn't make an effort to see her again. I had debts, work, the call of history. I love that just kind of justification that, like, I could be flighty or do whatever you want. So classic. And even when she's, like, kind of chastising him, he goes back, very well, I accept your apology. That was not an apology. Such great stuff.
And then he goes right again. And it's funny because he doesn't really learn, because this is who he is. He's, chasing after the flash and chasing after the glitter. Here's somebody that he should have actually been talking to and he should have been getting more information about. She understands. She just told him, hey, I'm the one who brought you here. He should be focusing on that. But instead, he's focusing on the hot girl in the hot car. And he goes, ooh, what's this? A golden chariot. I'm out of here. And he goes after the hot woman. And I'm like, man, it's just, it cracked me up because you're seeing just, again, this this romanticized and just this variation, but later on he kind of realizes he messed up because she's a little bit on the crazy side or a little bit over the top for him. He's used to the wooing and you court a woman for a month before you get a kiss on the cheek, and she's saying, hey, let's go right now. I'm good to go right now. And I love just the look of shock on his face when he's kind of, getting understanding of this world is dramatically different than his.
Well, it's also she's a strong modern woman. He's used to having the control and being in the driver's seat. She's completely taken the control out of his hands, so he controls the pace. He controls, the whole sequence and the environment, especially with how dismissive he is originally of Lexi. So I really loved that aspect. You're so totally right. It's one of the things that really worked. He justifies that that's a chariot and how it's going to go, and he feels like, hey, this is exactly how I roll and operate. Not really, not in this world. The ending with Casanova was great because I'm glad it was only the last 2 pages. And my explanation for that is I felt like we got to know Byron and Lexi really well by the time we hit the last 2 pages. Good time to throw in, okay, here's where the twist comes in. And here's what you're going to be dealing with moving forward. I actually cared about both Byron and Lexi by the end, to the point where I'm on board with them for issue 2, wherever this crazy train ride's going. I want to see more. They threw in the curve, and I'm like, you already had me. Now I want to see where this nut's going. Casanova.
Again, I like the fact that Casanova is this killer.
Yes, I do
because
too.
Casanova wasn't, a nice guy. If you, I'm not 100%, boned up on my Casanova, but he, was a rogue. He was not a good person. Everybody, you romanticize again the fact that he is just how charming and just wonderful he was, but you think about just some of the stuff he was messing around with married women. He was killing people in duels. He was doing all types of not nice stuff. He's not a good guy, and I like the fact that they're playing him off as a little bit on the crazy side, a little bit on the cruel side, and part of it could be the transformation over. It could be this is who he always was, and because a lot of times history will tend to play people in a positive, in a more positive light than what they actually were. Again, it's, and I keep throwing out the word romanticizing, but we do that with a lot of our characters. Think of people like Billy the Kid, that's a stone cold killer who has been portrayed in such wonderful lights in various movies and stories. But in the end, Billy the Kid was a killer. He was, how many sheriffs and the various members of the law did he kill in his lifetime? He's not a good person, but we've made him such a folk hero that, people nowadays would say, oh, Billy's awesome. No, he's not.
Can I ask you a question? Would you say you're becoming quickly a Vertigo fan?
Big time.
Because honestly, the thing I'm loving about all of these titles is there's not one of them that's alike. There's nothing that's cookie cutter out of this batch. They're all unique. They're all valid. And to me, creatively, it's everything that I've always loved about Vertigo. They don't have any limits. These are all, very creator-owned in their presentation. They're telling very unique and interesting stories. They're character-driven. It's everything that I like, but not a single one of them is the same. And I really love that part of it where I'm just getting a lot of it. It feels like I'm just, every hour I'm like on my next favorite show with what's going on here. My thing out of the batch is I was kind of, honestly, in a weird way, I was kind of like you in the sense that I was looking at like, okay, I know I'm going to have some of these titles out of there that I'm really going to be diving towards and salivating about and really into. My big problem right now is I'm not finding one I didn't like. And I mean, I'm not finding one that I didn't like quite a bit. I mean, I really want to know more of each of these titles. As a relaunch goes, here's the thing. Even if time-wise and budget-wise I've got to start chopping back on some of these, I think it's the best possible problem to have because this is a very successful relaunch of a line. The quality here is just if anybody listening to this has not tried out at least some of these books, you're missing the boat because this has been fun.
I'm finding I'm getting upset when I realize that a book's a temporary book.
Yes.
It's got a limited run. I'm like, no, wait, oh man, I really dig this one. Come on. And like the last ordering I did, I noticed there was a couple titles that aren't around. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, oh dang it, I've already ordered the last of those. And you I was getting upset. I'm like, so what, as I said before, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. I am such a Vertigo fan right now, and I'm like, and it's killing me. But again, this is a good problem to have. It's a good problem that I'm excited to read books. It's a good problem that I'm really enjoying this stuff.
Garth Ennis did a book back in the day called Goddess, and it was a mini-series. And I remember with each issue that I was reading of it, I was like, why does this have to be a mini? I'm loving this. This is during the day era when like Hitman was around and Preacher and stuff like that. So you're getting all that great reading from him. And he comes out with this miniseries Goddess with the same thing, just great characters and an interesting story and very different from the other two, but yet all of the tenets of what you love about Garth Ennis. And it's exactly the same thing that you're mentioning here. It's really good stuff. Can we jump to Unfollow? Issue number 2, because I'd really like to talk about that book, if you don't mind, because I think it just continues more of this, and really is a very different title than this one.
Our next discussion will be on Unfollow number 2. The writer is Rob Williams with artist Michael Doling, colorist Quentin Winter, letters Clem Robbins, with Matt Taylor as the cover artist, Ellie Pyle as editor, Molly Mahan as the assistant editor, Shelley Bond executive editor, with created by Williams and Dowling. And I tell you, Unfollow is one of those really cool books, but the page that has the creative on there, the only words I can say is, man, just put on some pants, dude. Come on. Come on, really? Come on, man.
This book is phenomenal. This is on my short list of the new Vertigo titles, especially with issue number 2. It kind of all came together. I'm into like tech giants. I like the idea of these people that like create Facebook and they all of a sudden have this immense amount of success with like a tech startup or something like that. In this case, you've got a guy who, did kind of like a Facebook kind of thing. He set up this list of 140 people, 140 characters, and they stand to inherit it all. Billions of dollars will be distributed. I think they get 120 million apiece or something like that. I'm poorly paraphrasing that part of it, but what they get is like an intense amount of money. And I love that each one of them is from a very different walk of life, and they're all being recruited right now to come and meet to basically be a part of this life-changing experience. There's a whole event here. But this guy is so rich that he really has a squad that no matter where you're at in the world, no matter what your current circumstance, whether you're being held hostage, you want to be there, you don't want to be there, he's going to reach you and make sure you wind up at this meeting, or somebody will take your place. And you have to follow the rules. The rules are you come alone. You do not bring a family member or anything. You've got to be there and be a part of this whole thing and accept it in order to get your piece of the pie. I like the brother and sister combination in this one where, he has been threatened with the potential danger to her life for maybe their whole life. And he considers them, like a team, go team. Hey, I'm always going to be here for you, that type of thing. But now he's been dropped with this life changer. It can affect him. It will also affect her because he seems like the type. I really believe that he will stand up for her. He will give her part of the money. He will make sure that she's taken care of and that she lives very well coming out of this. The problem is, in order to do this, he has to leave her behind with the people that have been threatening them all along. And what are they going to want? Money.
I want some money, right? Yeah.
What a gripping story.
Yeah, the cool thing about this story and this concept is, again, you see people, what will they do for that much money? That's a huge just, moment. And this goes beyond just, a little bit of money. This is a life-changing amount. this is something significant, that it's, this is Bill Gates money we're talking here,
Right.
And that is something that I love, the fact that you're seeing all these different people, and they're really laying this down as this is going to be a Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. This is going to be a blood fest, where a slaughter of, Highlander. There can be only one. Throw out any movie analogy you want to use, but this is not going to. The person who's going to get this money is not going to come away clean. They're not going to be. They're going to end this. Experiment situation a different person just because of the experience. And I think that's kind of curious as to who they're pulling, why they're pulling them in. Because in this issue we've got the famous writer from Japan, we've got the kid from the inner city, we've got the movie maker from the female reporter from Iran, we've got
Deacon of the Lord. Love Deacon of the Lord.
All these different walks of life, man. I'm excited to see where this goes, man. The Deacon of the Lord. It's a crazy guy here. I don't judge people based on their religious faith. We each have our own ideas, but wow, this is one of those interesting fellows that, when your only carry-on is a bag loaded with weaponry, and it's not just assault rifles. I'm seeing grenades. I'm seeing, you name it. He's got it in that bag, and he is not playing with the full deck.
Ravan's story is probably my favorite, the BBC reporter.
Yeah.
Because I love that they've got her in Iran and basically saying, so you think that you can just leave to join this super rich 140 list to become a decadent Western millionaire when you have not earned it? That we are just going to let this Mr. Farrell's men take you away in their private jet to his island now without going through proper channels? What would society be without proper channels? And they're basically saying, your story's over, forget the money, you're going to be here a very, very long, long time. We can basically make all kinds of different charges stick for you to be here forever. Then all of a sudden that masked guy comes in that we saw from the first issue. The truth is my weapon, bang, bang, bang. It was like something out of a Tarantino flick. I absolutely loved every moment of that sequence of events, because by the time that speech ended, first of all, you knew where that was going. That was not going to end well for them at all. But I loved, it's something where sometimes something can be telegraphed and you need it to be. Because you want the anticipation of, oh man, you guys are so done for. And I absolutely loved every minute of that because it was very cinematic in its appearance. I love the crazy mask. This book just, man, a mile a minute. What I love is the creative and diverse cast of characters. Everybody who is on the 140 list that we've seen so far is really different. With the fact that there's 140 of them, the possibilities are endless on what you can do storytelling-wise with this. I want to know more.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And it's funny because you're talking about with just our masked guy here. That again, your Tarantino comparison was absolutely perfect because you can really just see unloading the double fisted, just walk in there and just the slaughter. Where all the other people pick up, it was nice. They were armed heavily. You look at every one of those things where they're coming to get them. They're coming in armed. They're coming in ready. But the way things were in Iran with them not wanting to let her go, and I love the fact that they really did get you hating those people in like a very couple short panels, to the point where you get the one panel where the door starts to open and the next one where you just see his head and you're like, oh yeah, it's going down now. And I love just how this was laid out, because especially the one panel, then you had to flip the page. And whenever you have the setup on one page and you flip the page to the next, it always adds to it, because you flip the page, full page spread. The truth is my weapon. Both guns are blazing. I'm just like, wow, that again, right? That was a cool sequence. I have to say, artistry as well as with the story being told, everything laid out how this came about was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's the pacing is phenomenal in this. It's really just a very well done book. I kept like hearing music when that whole violent sequence was going. You know, just like you would like some strangely upbeat song like Tarantino would play during a sequence like that. And I was thinking of Reservoir Dogs in particular when I was thinking of that sequence of events. It was really just well handled and well written. This is a book that I was really excited with issue 1. Issue 2 has just increased the excitement. I can't wait for issue 3. Cannot get here soon enough on this title. What a great book.
And we're not even at the island yet. Nothing has actually quote unquote begun.
No, take your time.
Is all the setup for it. And I'm like, man, that's again is something kind of neat that you can get excited for the setup for the quote unquote action.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like with the one brother, I love how he's seeing that leopard, and he's like, I'm out of my mind here. He keeps seeing that leopard periodically. And, obviously it's in his head, but is there something beyond that? Is there some supernatural thing playing out in this?
I don't know. I love it. This is a book that I like to hang with. Like, to your point, I don't need them in the island next. If they go to the island next issue, great. If not, and it's more of this kind of stuff, I'm in. It's fun. I'm just really enjoying this ride. It's a great story. I want to see where the writer's taking us. I really do. And very cool. I love the artwork. It's got its own, you know what I love about it? It's got its own art style that is really meant for this book. That's been a great thing. I don't know if I don't think I've mentioned it enough when I've talked about these Vertigo titles. I've really loved the writer and artist pairings, and art team pairings, I should say, in all of these books. Each one of them has a very unique look and feel to it that really is representative of the type of story that's being told. And I don't know, for a comic book fan who loves art, man, is this a visual treat to just see all of these cool titles. Unfollow has got a great art team on it. I just loves the backgrounds, the exotic sequences. Then you get into Iran and everything's like dusty and, deserty and, exactly what you'd expect from Iran. They really take you from location to location and give you a sense of atmosphere, tone, and mood. And they do it effortlessly. I mean, this really is a well put together art team on this book. This book really has it all.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you on how the art styles are different for each of the books. And it is, because, like, you look at this one, this art style is, I would say, very similar to Sheriff of Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same, but it is kind of have that same stylings to them. It's got that little bit of a grit to it, and you need to have that grit in this kind of story that you're being told. But it is still this book style. It is personalized for this book. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not anything that is, going forward. This is the look for this book, and if anything were to change on creative team, I think that would be kind of an interesting moment, if they had to change the style, if they changed the look, because I don't know. It's right now I'm very married to this style, to this book, so that'd be a tough one for me. Especially like some of these sequences where when she's being tortured and beaten and just they show her black eye and the blood coming out of the nose and just, they've really worked her over. She's been really messed up. And you go from that moment to then just that realization in her eyes when she first sees that mask where she's like, she goes from that, that hardened, exterior where she's like standing up for herself and, ready to, kind of not give in to that, oh my God, what is that look on her face? I love those two panels when you look at them side by side because it so fits with just the chaos and the craziness that's about to happen. It's one of those things where they're playing with the eyes and they're playing with those facial expressions and they're doing just some amazing stuff with just that face.
I like that we're left there. Like, I like that was the ending.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good ending to the issue because it left me just excited for more. I'm like, okay, I want to see where this goes now. Really cool. And I actually felt that with all the stories that were there, all the little vignettes, I'm like, I want to see where they all go. So I don't know what next issue brings for us because they seem to be doing a nice balance of keeping you hooked into some people that you were following in the previous issue, while at the same time moving forward and introducing you to new people that you haven't seen before. That's a nice part about there being 140 of them. You can do that and keep us connected. And give us a sense of continuity while keeping the sense of freshness in the book. I really love the premise for that purpose, because I just think it's going to be very interesting moving forward to see who we're focusing on and who we're not. And I'd be curious to see out of the 140 who makes it.
Yeah. Well, and here's something interesting I just noticed now as we're talking. Mm-hmm. That final page where, our mask guy is asking her, to come and record this, and it's important story. The world needs it to be recorded. So Mr. Farrell profoundly, with respect, asks that you tell the story. And then that last panel, there's that please.
Yeah.
I never noticed that before.
Yes.
In the read-throughs. I think that is a kind of a cool, again, it's kind of a cool moment. This guy who just came in and slaughtered all these people, is sitting there, and it's that whole polite, respectful, will you do this, please? I was like, man, that's kind of a neat, little add-on to the moment. She's definitely got to be going, what the heck is happening here?
And he gradually was putting together a camera leading up to that. I thought that was really great as well. It was all very respectful, and it was just neat, just really, really neat. Yeah, I can't wait for more of this one. This wasn't another home run hit.
I know.
I was like, wow, another one of these titles that I'm just really digging. This is on my short list though. Here's the thing: there's so many good ones out of the batch. This is one though. I've got to say, if they were all out on the table, this would be in my top 5 of the new ones easily. The one that I want to jump to and go back to. I'm really loving this story a lot.
You know what? I would concur on that statement, just because of, I don't know where this is going to go. There's so many different ways. There's so many different branches this story can offshoot into. Especially because there may be a supernatural element to all of this. There may be something beyond just a rich guy in a Thunderdome battle. I don't know that for certain yet. I don't know more about who the deacon is. I don't know more about her, and it just, in the mask guy, I got to know who this guy is, because part of me wonders if that is actually the billionaire in the mask.
Ooh.
When I first saw him, that was the first thought that popped in my head, that's actually the billionaire. And he keeps referring to the Mr. Farrell about, he wants you there. And he keeps referring to the guy, so implying that it's not him, but I'm looking for swerves. I'm looking for little twists. And I think that'd be a kind of a neat thing if he was actually the dude in the mask.
I do too. I wasn't thinking that at all, but that would be an interesting possibility. I don't know what's going on there. I actually took him at his word as far as who he is, but I want to know his back. Here's the thing. I want to know the masked guy's backstory. I'm like all in on the, so whether he is that guy or not, I don't care. I want to know his backstory. I'm in.
I concur 100% with that statement.
Because this is just really, really good stuff. So I'm enjoying it. So, cool.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
Hey, Norge, it's Jim. I'm calling because I just read Vision from Marvel, and oh my God, is it awesome! I've just read issue 1. Issue 2 is out, so I'm about to, after I hang up the phone with you, I'm going to pick up and read issue number 2. But yeah, wow. You know what? This is a cool concept with the Vision and just the Vision family and just the kind of exploration of what is this synthetic life type of, and I'm sitting there trying to figure where this thing's going to go, what they can do, and you see the writing on the wall of some very nasty stuff coming down the pipeline. But the process is you don't really know what exactly is going to play out. How is it going to play out? And just this breakdown and just this, it is definitely a different Tom King style, but it's still really, really awesome. So thank you to all the people who said pick this book up. And yeah, I'm adding to the library, so I'm reading some Marvel stuff. I think I'm probably going to read that Daredevil one that you guys mentioned as well. Okay, well, talk to you later. Bye.
I am so geeking out that you loved Vision because it is such a great book. And you're right. I love the whole exploration of synthetic life and what that would be like. And you're right. It does have a book. It does look like it's going to have a dark turn at some point where it's going. But you mentioned in your voicemail about how this is a different style for Tom King. And this one of the things I really like about Tom's writing, and I think this is true of any of my favorite writers, it's always fun to see them try on a new hat and a new kind of story style, because you get to really see them stretch their creative muscles. And I think that pays off for their other material that you're enjoying. Like, because when they go there, it kind of just adds some things to the toolbox that pays off later. I do want to say one quick little aside here, and before I, obviously give you a chance to add some more comments into this, but for people out there, if you had a chance to meet Tom King, we've had Tom King on the show before, and we've gotten to hang with him a little bit at a couple conventions. Tom is one of the nicest guys in the world, and I say that genuinely. Anybody listening to this, do yourself a favor, stop by his table and chat with him. One of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
I haven't. I wish I've been able to go to more cons and be able to say hello to him, just because he's one of those creators that I want to stop by and say hello to. He's so talented and so nice, and I just highly recommend having that experience, because he makes you feel like you're a friend. And people like all the time, talk about like, what is the best thing about going to conventions, what it makes it a convention experience. And I think it's these creators that do that. They're really personable people. They really genuinely like to talk about their work. They like to talk to you and really just hang out and enjoy the whole con experience. He's a fan. And, that's a cool thing when you've got a writer who's a fan of the medium, and just cool stuff. But Vision's very cool. Did you read Daredevil? Did you end up getting to that?
I have it, but I haven't had a chance to read it.
Okay.
But I did pick it up because I did have both the titles in digital format. So okay. I think that's probably how I'm going to keep getting Vision, is just keep going through, the digital side of it, because that'll make things, I think that'll make things a little bit easier on me, but it's still, I'm all in on that. That was absolutely outstanding, and I'm really glad. I laugh and I say, "Dang it, why'd you guys say that?" Because I don't need another book. But when you read something and you enjoy it, and you're looking forward to what is going to be the future that holds, just because you're dealing with creatures or people or whatnot that technically really don't have the emotions, and they're dealing with that, and they're dealing with life, and they're dealing with it's poor choices that she's made that are going to come back to haunt her, especially when blackmail. And what happens when you blackmail somebody who could and very easily would kill you? I'm really looking forward to seeing who is blackmailing her and what's going to happen to that person, because it's not going to be pretty.
Absolutely. I want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434, or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of the show. Feel free to call at any point in time. We do play all voicemails, so please feel free to call in and give us your thoughts on anything going on in comics right now, or relating to the medium, because we love hearing from you.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
I want to remind everyone about our website, ragingbullets.com. That's where you'll find news about when we're recording our next episodes and what's coming up next, so be sure to check that out. I do publish right to Twitter after I post those, so if you're a Twitter fan, go ahead and follow us over there. We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook fan page. We also have an amazing Facebook community, and I just want to shout everyone out in the Facebook community and wish them a happy holidays. It's such an amazing group of people, and we do share that with InfiniteComics.com. We are also on Google+, so you can really find us all over social media. We want to be there with you. So thank you very much for supporting us. This past year, actually, it's been great. So as we're talking about the holiday season, I do want to wish everyone a very, very happy holidays. Thank you for supporting our show. Can't wait till we do more next year. Actually, we have one more episode this year that we're going to be sneaking out to you. So I just want to wish everyone a very, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, any other holidays that you support out there, I just want to wish you a happy holiday season. Sponsoring this episode once again is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on at DCBService.com?
Mom, I love my bundles, and DCBS gives them to me. The new Vertigo series, 50% off, $21.89 for all the great Vertigo titles. We've got the DC mini series bundle, 50% off, $11.93, and we've got these beautiful Neil Adams variant covers, all 26 issues, 45% off, $51.99. But on top of that, we've got these great unwrapped, Batman Unwrapped, Blackest Night Unwrapped, deluxe hardcover editions, both of them. Batman Unwrapped, 40% off, $20.99. Blackest Night Unwrapped, 50% off, only $17.49.
I want to shout out, first of all, that they are a digital partner. If you do your shopping through Comixology, My Digital Comics, make sure to link those accounts and shop through their portal. You earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. Plus, it helps out our show sponsor, and it doesn't cost you anything more to do it. Over at InStockTrades.com, I shout out a whole bunch of stuff at the beginning, but there's some other cool stuff that's out there that you might want to check out. Over in the latest releases, Deathstroke the Terminator hardcover. I'm sorry, trade paperback, Volume 2, Sympathy. This is the classic Marv Wolfman series. So if you're a fan of Deathstroke and maybe hadn't had an opportunity to read this one, it's regularly $14.99, 45% off, only $8.24. And this trade paperback collects issues 10 to 13, the annual one, and Superman number 68. Deathstroke must train the new vigilante while he recovers from his own recent injuries. Plus, after being captured by Superman, Deathstroke must escape the Justice League of America. Also over there is the current series, Superman Action Comics. It is Volume 7, Under the Skin, $22.99 regularly, 45% off, only $12.64. It collects Action Comics 36 to 40 and Futures End number 1. So some great collections there for DC fans. Once again, want to remind everyone that InStockTrades.com is your collected edition source. So make sure to take care of our show sponsors. Jim, our next episode, we're going to kind of continue on this route for our next show and do one more before the end of the year. We did announce previously that we're going to be having on Freddie E. Williams II, and that we are also going to try to get on the people from Hero Tomorrow to talk more about Apama. Because of the fact that I've had some family illnesses and things like that, we're delaying those just so that way I didn't want to put them off any further. We're going to do another kind of wrap-up of just Jim and myself talking some of the comics that we've been enjoying throughout the end of the year, and then reschedule those hopefully sometime in January. We will give you more details on what those are going to look like. So Freddie, I'm hoping we're going to be able to get him on for issue 2 of the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover event. And we can really talk about that event with Freddie and get caught up with him. So we have that coming on down the road. We will see everyone next week. And once again, happy holidays.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whelan was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulan. Sometime earlier, Segulan's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whelan as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulan as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.